Hi, everybody. This is Erica from In the Company of Cards, and Lena from Lena Down Under. Right, Lena. It's Lena. It's what is it? It's Lena Down Under.
Yeah, because it was too much before. Lena
Yeah.
Tarot Down
Yeah,
Under.
okay,
So
right, okay. I'm a Lenormandist, of course. Lena's a tarotist, and you can see us do our respective things on our respective channels. But we have decided, as you know, if you're new, if you're not new, um, but anyway, to come together once a week. This is our first time of doing it for an hour. We've been together for an hour before. We would do it once a month, but we've decided that we're going to do it once a week just to help you all and ourselves through these hard times. And so we are here at 6 p.m. Pacific on Wednesday nights, which is Thursday afternoon for you, Lena, right? And that would be us 9 p.m. Eastern. So this will be an every week thing. So nice to see everybody. Here you all are in the chat, and that's great. Lena, how have you been? How has your week been?
Well, because I live deeply in American politics, I'm really detached from what's going on in Australia. I rely on my housemates to tell me big things. But we were talking just before we came on about our Prime Minister. But the other party, the Conservatives, are really interesting at the moment. So,
what's
Australia
going on there?
has Labor, which is like the Dems, and the coalition of the Liberals, who are the Conservatives, and the Nationals, who are the country folk, very conservative. They can only compete by being a coalition. In my entire lifetime, they've been a coalition. And just this last week, they've split, the coalition split, which is a very big deal. And so
what did they split over? Yeah, why did they split?
The Conservatives weren't racist enough.
Really.
Right.
So this rightward shift is happening. This rightward shift is happening all over the world.
Yes.
You know, I was talking to my daughter the other day, and she was saying, she's 32, and she understands how politics works, and she said, we're all going to be in a better place eventually, but then, and she looked at me and just said it very calmly. She said, but not before we experience fascism on a worldwide stage, because apparently we haven't got quite enough of a taste of it yet. And I think she's not incorrect. So that's interesting that they're not racist enough. I will say, having said that, because that's a little depressing, having said that, I will say this, and if you've not read my Substack article today, you all, I recommend that you go there and check that out, because I do feel like there is a turning of the tide.
Yeah.
Can you sense that there at all?
Yes, exactly. And just to finish that point, by splintering it off, it gives them less power.
Right,
now, this is not Albanese. Someone said, oh, everyone was happy when Albanese. This isn't the Labor Party. This is the other Conservative.
The other side.
And so they want stricter immigration and stricter everything.
Well, this will make Albanese's party more powerful then, correct?
It can do.
Right.
It
well,
can
good.
do.
Let them fight amongst themselves.
Yes, it's like that. And it's a big earthquake in Australian politics. Yeah. So it's great. But it's like the Republicans are starting to eat each other too, and the same in the manosphere. They're starting to attack each other. So we're seeing this.
Yes. I've written about that months and months ago. I talked about the battle between the black hats and the red hats. And I hypothesized who I thought would win. But the fact of the matter is, yes, they are eating each other. And that is absolutely all to the good.
Yes.
Not that the Dems don't have that same danger with the progressives and the old guard neoliberal, neocon contingent. So, we'll see.
And
Well,
in fact, there's destructive bloodbaths and there's healthy bloodbaths. I would like to see the Dems take control of this conversation with each other and let the cards fall, so to speak, where they may, instead of investing in stifling David Hoggs and not endorsing Mamdani and so. You might not like it, but you go, look, New York's not Alabama. If he can pull it off, he pull it off, right? They don't do that.
No, but you know what?
Old Dems hold back the young ones.
So let's think about why they don't do that. I mean, I hate to say it, but I don't think the situation is as much of a binary as we like to think that it is. And I think that there is, for example, we are going to focus, of course, on the matter of the hour, which is, of course, the Epstein files. I think that in the matter of the Epstein files and everything that they represent, there is a lot more commonality across party lines than we'd like to think that there is.
Mm.
And I'm not just talking about the SA piece of it. For example, I don't know if you saw this, Lena, but Chuck Schumer spoke at an Israeli American gathering. It was a dinner, and he right out of his mouth, he said, "My main goal this year will be to get Israel all of the funding it needs so that it can defend itself however it wants." And I thought, Chuck, you sound a little compromised yourself.
Mm. This is interesting because maybe 6 months ago or something, he gave a speech, might be a bit longer, that I found extraordinary and refreshing in the context, in the sense he said the obstacles to peace in the Middle East, and he named Hamas and Hezbollah, but he also named the armed right-wing settlers, taking places with a bit, and he actually spread the blame in a way that was brave in the context of an American Jew, not so much in Argentina or in Paris, right? He did spend. Now you're saying he's gone back to
think he has had a come to Jesus moment, Jewish style. I think that this all of this stuff that's being uncovered now is going to has already shown that there are certain nation states that have us in their sway. Russia is one of them. Thank you, Tulsi. And so is Israel, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And I think that things are so connected to each other, like the whole Turning Point USA piece is very interesting. Israel is a big funder of Turning Point USA. Why would that be?
Really? I didn't know that.
Yes. So there are lots of tentacles and tendrils of interconnectedness that, here's my concern. My concern is that we're all oohing and ahhing and shocked and horrified by things we've recently learned of late as of Friday with that second dump. My concern is that Americans don't become like fainting goats, meaning when the going is just too much and it's just overwhelming, that we tend to just say, oh, I can't handle it. It's too much. Can we talk about something else, etc.? I think that that's why we're being bombarded with all of these different things. Now there's boots on the ground in Nigeria, just to add to everything else international that he's got us involved in. I think that we are so on the cusp of untangling some of this interconnectedness. And I think it's very dangerous for us to be doing it.
I'd just like to, sorry, go on.
Yeah. No, well, I mean, I was just going to say, I always say I'm not an astrologer, but Pluto in Aquarius calls for this, the uncovering of all of these deep, dark secrets. People, I think I said this last week. I may not have, but when the right was talking about the Pizzagate and child sex, whatever, and we thought, oh my God, they're crazy. They're conspiracy theorists. Well, come to find out, they weren't wrong. It's just that they hadn't cast their net quite wide enough, because the net is comprised of people on every side, and apparently from every country.
Mm. Yes.
So, yeah.
Before talking about that, I'd like to just double back to Israel for a second.
Yeah, it's part of it. Yeah.
I think it's really, really important to see that anti-Semitism is not given oxygen in itself. At the same time, it should be all right to criticize the actions of the modern state of Israel in relation to actual deployment in Gaza. Aid is still not getting through to Gaza.
No.
That's a point. But at the same time, it's really important to not let anti-Semitism be an excuse. I think we need to be honest about these definitions and distinctions. I think that's really important.
I will say this. I have seen people take that term, that concept, anti-Semitism, and spread it like peanut butter on toast. In other words, if you do dare to criticize the government of Israel, ergo, you must definitely be anti-Semitic. It's like what they used to say about Black people. Oh, you're playing the race card, whatever. No, you can. It is possible. It is possible. Look, here's the other thing. I think you cannot be both victim and perpetrator simultaneously, and pick the label that suits you when it suits you. I don't think that's possible.
Yes. And I think that's something that's happened because I lived in the Jewish community in Bondi for 30 odd years. I watched it closely in the sense that this became a trope that stopped voices. So if you were not Jewish, you couldn't speak on this issue. And if you were Jewish and critical of Israel, you were a self-hating Jew.
Right.
I think what we're not realizing is there's a lot of young Jews, like many have embraced Zionism with the new zest, but there are many millions who are really uncomfortable with what is being done in their name, and they deserve a voice too.
They do deserve a voice, and they should speak up. And I will say the same. You could draw a parallel, I think, with Americans. I know that last time you were very kind, and you said, or it might have been our first episode, now that we're up to number 3, but you were very kind, and you made the case that in Australia and in Europe, they are very capable of understanding the difference between the American government and the American people. And I think that was very kind and generous and grace-filled statement to make. But I, being less grace-filled, want to say again what I also said when you mentioned that, which is that has a shelf life. And I say that because the same thing holds true for Israel. That has a shelf life. In other words, there will come a point when people will say about Israel, but y'all are signing up for the military. I know it's the law, but you're serving
Mm.
How come your voices aren't really that loud enough for us to hear in terms of your disagreement with what your government's doing? In the same way that we can be asked the same exact question, especially in this sort of love and light community that you and I are part of. There's a lot of silence around a lot of things, including the Epstein situation.
Yeah.
Why? Or a lot of other things that the felon has done. Why the silence? Because there will come a time when these very discerning Europeans, Australians, and Asians, and everybody else across the world that's not American are going to say, silence is complicity. And we're not hearing you loud enough. And it's not enough for us.
And it matters all the time. And then there's certain times that are peaks where it really, really, really matters.
Well, now is the time that it really, really, really matters.
Yeah, exactly. And with the Epstein stuff, which is revolting revelation upon revolting revelation, what is the comeback to these men? I think they're embarrassed at most, some of them. And a couple of wives may have left during the course of this stuff. But really, they're not getting any legal consequence because the DOJ is a jelly that's been weaponized for the trumpet. So, in fact, I was just thinking this morning too, the only big name who I think has paid a price, not the ultimate price, is ex-Prince Andrew. He's lost his title, he's lost the income, and he's lost a couple of palaces. But which of the other men have had any consequences?
Hold on. Yes, you're right. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has lost. Apparently, in the middle of the night, he got booted. So he has been evicted. But listen, who did that? The king.
Yeah. The family did it, not the judicial system.
No, not the judicial system. But Keir Starmer, the prime minister, right? Is he the prime minister? Said, I think he should go and speak to the American authorities. I mean, he said that out loud. But here's the thing.
Yes. It's a very big deal.
It's a big deal over there, as it should be. Look, it's a stain on the Queen of England. It's a stain. I get that this was her baby boy, her favorite child, her whatever, but she knew what was happening, as did Philip. Apparently, Philip himself is in the files. So Philip not only knew what his nasty son was up to, he was probably up to that stuff too. So there's all of that, but but I'm talking about here, we have Todd Blanche at the DOJ. Todd Blanche was asked, so, what about these men? And you know what he said? This was what he said today. He said, it's not a crime for people to have partied with Epstein. That's what he said. And he said, if we knew of any men who abused any women, we would.
No.
This is, look, it is. Somebody wrote a great Substack article, and the title of it is, it's a Black expression. They're playing in our faces.
Yeah.
Which means they're doing their dirt right in front of everybody. They're not even trying to hide what's going on. So will there be accountability for these men? Maybe some of them. I know that in England, the guy who was he an ambassador? He lost his job. He may lose his he lost his seat in Parliament, and he may lose his title. But this is Europe doing this, and then we've got France, thank God, bringing down Elon, which is great because Elon is all woven through those documents as well. But notice, I'm not saying that there are any official American channels that are doing anything about this, because there aren't.
No. No. And nor am I hearing a call for it even.
No, you're not.
Yes, in certain podcast land, but
Right.
in general terms, the media, by its compliance and complicity in every other area, they've got nowhere to go with this. They haven't got.
I don't think it's about complicity in every other area. I think it's complicity in this area. You do not hear about this on the mainstream legacy media. You have to go to, independent journalists to find this information out.
And that's a shocking abrogation of journalism that has taken place. It's absolutely shocking.
Well, okay, so you've got journalism indicted, but I mean, what about Congress?
Oh, every layer. Every layer.
Right, every single layer. Every single layer. And so the danger is we say, you know what, you can't fight City Hall, another expression that we use. This is too big. It'll die down. We'll just that's what Trump said today. He said, I think the country, I wrote it down because I used it as the title for my piece. He said, it's time for the country to get on to something else. Wait, what? I mean, wishful thinking, but the problem is it's not a joke, because what could happen is this could die a very unnatural death.
Oh, absolutely. And MAGA, who were frothing at the mouth about the release of the Epstein files, where is their follow-up?
Well, I've seen MAGA people be asked, sort of anecdotally, man on the street, right? And people will say, the reporters will say, so is this a deal breaker for you? And they'll say, no. Now, see, my follow-up question would be, and what if this were your daughter? But I'm afraid that the answer could be, oh, well.
Yeah, exactly. They've got off the train, right?
Yeah.
And so
that's a good, I mean, there are a lot who are not impressed. I mean, who feel duped. Yeah, who are outraged. But I also think, psychologically speaking, it's a very hard thing to acknowledge that you were taken, run amok, led astray, hoodwinked,
through the nose. Yes. And that's what they're up against too, I think, with the economy. Trump's economy is slapping them around and thing. But with the Epstein stuff, the bottom line is they don't and never did want to question the sexual morality of men at all.
That's right.
Because that would mean they'd have to look at the Jim Jordans in their community. Right. They would have to look at the reverends who has a reputation for, being attracted to 12-year-old girls or whatever. Right. They don't want to follow it up where it naturally goes.
No, even our language, we'll talk about in the media, they'll say underage girls. Well, as I wrote in my piece, isn't by definition the term girl speaking to the underage nature of the person? So can we just skip the semantics and call them children?
Children. And it changes everything.
It should. You're right. It should change everything.
Yes.
Did you hear about the graves?
I've only just heard.
So, okay. There's, Trump is always telling on himself. So there are lots of emails where he'll say something like, well, you don't want to end up in buried in a on a golf course. Well, who do we know that's buried on a golf course? No headstone, nothing. Okay. So I think it's a thing. So apparently there are plots of land in New Mexico, California, possibly Arizona as well, where there may be bodies. You see, I think what's happened is they were doing their dirt in a very 20th century way, or in a way that it's been done from time immemorial. But now we're in the 21st century. And when you do crime in a 20th century way, you're going to get caught up by 21st century methods. So, for example, in the olden days, they had what would they, if they were looking for bodies? Dogs, right? Dogs that with noses that sniff. Okay, they've been around forever. Now we have things like sonar.
Mm-hmm.
If you can go into the ocean and find the Titanic,
Mm-hmm.
you could take that same kind of equipment and go to those tracts of land. Granted, it's a wide swath, but so is the ocean, a wide swath.
Yes,
let me just say. And they managed to find, okay, and look and see what's there. The question is, why has that not been done?
Mm.
There's a difference apparently between what you can do and what you're willing to do.
And yet all the money in the world is being diverted to the most inappropriate fascist things.
Yes.
And there's, money's but it's more than that. The DOJ is not engaged with prosecuting these men. They are not interested. They are under instructions not to go. Someone just said in the comments, Ted Cruz in the last few days said, let's stop persecuting pedophiles? Where was it?
Oh yes, he said
let's stop attacking pedophiles.
Yes, he said that. He actually said that. Now, people, the mainstream media gave him a pass and said that, he misspoke. No, he didn't misspeak. He actually said that.
So they don't even want the verbals, let alone legals, let alone career-ending anything.
Right.
This is where
why we need the intervention and the assistance. This is a petition of the world. First of all, it's an international enterprise.
Absolutely.
I take great comfort in the fact that Lithuania is saying, yeah, wait a minute. What happened to all these Lithuanian girls that disappeared into the United States or were sold away, and there's bills of sale? There's a bill of sale in the documents about a Brazilian girl, and guess how old she is? 9.
Oh no!
They were listen. People's parents who have no money in all kinds of countries, including the U.S., but also Brazil, were selling their daughters and their sons to this enterprise, and I think that the children were used up and then dispensed with. Because you can't tell me that everybody aged out and was given a college scholarship and lived happily ever after. No. And the Sasha Riley recordings actually dovetail everything that we're seeing in the actual files. In fact, today, Virginia Giuffre, remember that photograph of her standing there with Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, because with his arm around her. And she said, I wanted somebody to take this picture because I thought this is before he had his way with her. I wanted to send it home to my family that I had met Prince Andrew. And she insisted that the photo was real. She, until the day she died, was told, no. Andrew said in the interview, it was doctored. It was fake. He never met her. He was at a pizza place with his daughter. None of that. Okay, tonight, in case you don't know, that photograph was authenticated. So, why are we so
believe survivors? Believe.
Yes, that's what I was just going to say. Why are we so hesitant to believe the survivors? Why do we say, well, people will say things and da-da-da-da-da. What does that say about the culture?
Mm, exactly.
And the value of those who have the least authority among us, which is women and boys and girls.
Mm. Yes. Yes, absolutely.
So I hope that the world, I hope that, see, look, so the comment, it wasn't uncommon in Eastern Europe for families to sell their daughters to old men. Well, if it's an old man with a ton more money than the local old man, all the more reason. Here, take 2 of them. Great, take all of them. Just give me the money. I mean, and this has been since biblical times, before biblical times.
Yes, 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 yes.
It's just that the stakes are higher, the money's more. But and only recently, apparently, is our taste for it turning a little rancid.
And Clarence Thomas, oh God. One of our questions for this week was, would there be, what was it, any reforms for SCOTUS down the track? Well, I hope so. But the second part, or impeachments.
Okay,
now, we have to take a moment here because I'm just taking this at face value in the comments, but Clarence Thomas, I'll just say for YouTube purposes only, was associated with a 5-year-old girl.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's right.
No. Okay, now we've got to thank Sheldon Whitehouse here.
Yes.
Because he has been totally committed for the last, 4 years or something. He's been after Alito and Thomas. And it's that old thing, follow the money. Right. Which he did. So if the Dems get in any significant way in the next few years, the impeachment of those 2 men, it's prepped. It's ready to go. We don't have to wait 3 years while legal boffins do their thing. It's ready to go. And we can all here, everyone smart in this audience, can appreciate what that means, 2 vacancies on the Supreme Court. You know,
here's the question. Uncle Joe had 4 years. Uncle Joe had 4 years, did nothing, never expanded the court, never took those 2 to task.
No.
So whoever comes in, that's what they have to do. 2 things. One is to see that those 2 are impeached. Beyond that, they would have to expand the court. We are in this position because in no small measure, bad guys over here to the side, in no small measure, the contributions of Uncle Joe and Merrick Garland.
Regular viewers on my channel will know, look, it was devastating what happened on Merrick Garland's watch, and ultimately he was the president's authority.
That's right.
I remember at the time about the Jan 6 stuff, most people on the left and the centre were prepared to give Merrick Garland 9 months or a year or something, because we knew the DOJ had been corrupted and stuff. But nothing happened for 4 years, and Jack Smith was too late. They shouldn't have tried it in Florida in the first place. Jack Smith would not have got Aileen Cannon and the case would have gone ahead. That was a choice where to file the charges.
Exactly. And that's why I'm saying I do not lay this at the feet of ineptitude. I think everything circles back to what I said in the beginning, that there are wheels within wheels here. And if you pull one string, the whole thing comes apart. And then who will get implicated? More people than we realize.
Yes.
What is Adele doing on that Epstein list? Adele? Come on. You can see my treadmill in the back. I will not be walking to Adele anymore on my treadmill. I think that it's very hard for the world and Americans to wrap their heads around the malevolence of all of this. And And
I
that,
think, let me be devil's advocate here.
please do, yes.
Not just because I like Adele,
I love Adele. I mean,
but there is a distinction. A-listers hang with A-listers, right?
yeah.
And so you could be in the swathe of, it was the same with P. Diddy and stuff.
Absolutely.
There were those who bumped up against him in red carpet situations or parties and stuff and had no idea. I've got no idea what that percentage is. Then there was, I would put in the majority, those who had heard something or were suspicious but chose to ignore it, right? I'd put that as the bulk.
Yeah.
And then there's the other 20, 30% of something who were participants.
Okay, look, I'm not saying Adele.
Do you see what I'm saying?
No, yeah, but I'm going to say this.
Yeah.
If I knew, if I got invited to a party and I knew only what little I knew back in the 70s about Epstein, because everybody knew he was a sleaze. I mean, I went to school in that area that he recruited from. I have friends who actually did get caught up in that whole thing, and it really messed with them. Would I have gone to a party that I knew was an Epstein party? No.
No way, because you knew. Yeah.
And I think this idea of compromise and blackmail, you can do some gross stuff and then be blackmailed. Okay, that's true. But just even your association now could potentially be blackmail material and tarnish you. He knew that. He knew that. Why do you think that guy Lutnick, who is the financial person for Trump, he said, Harold Lutnick, I think his name is, he said that he and his wife lived next door to Epstein. And they were in his apartment one time, and there was like a massage table front and center and they were so grossed out that they wanted nothing to do with him. Okay, that sounds good, right? Except for there are files. This is what I'm saying. We're living in 21st century world.
Yeah, you can't get rid of
20th century lie and you think you're going to get caught. So come to find out, not only did they eat together, they traveled to the island with their children. They went to the island, and there's a note from Lutnick saying, we're coming with our family and another family to lunch. So it'll be, 4 adults and then 6 children, 2 16-year-olds, 2 14-year-olds, and a third.
I wonder why he got the invitation.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm not saying that he did anything salacious, but just by association. He knew enough to lie and say, oh, we were in there one time and we never saw them again. He knew enough to lie.
Yes.
But he wasn't man enough to tell the truth. I'm telling you, this has tentacles that there is no industry, there is no government that it does not pollute. And are we up for that? Or do we want to just do what we've always done? You know what that is? So there's a festering, bubbling wound. Put a Band-Aid on it. Yeah. And when you put the Band-Aid on it, if you see that it's moving, because, everything is, just put another Band-Aid on it.
Put a Band-Aid
on it that you want. When what is needed is all those Band-Aids need to be ripped off. The thing needs to be, you need to take a blowtorch and cauterize it. Then if you want to put some salve on it and a bandage. But we are so pain averse. This is painful.
Yes, I think that's a really good way of looking at it.
You know what? It brings us to the next topic, because which is what you brought up, and it's something that I talk about a lot. Pain averse. So where am I getting at? Can you bring it up? This is this whole thing between just in terms of how we see the world. that there are two ways of looking at the world. Most Americans, in my personal opinion, see the world from their own perspective. That's how, you know how I know? Because when I talk about, participating in actions and writing your congressman, and people will say things like, well, I'm very busy, or, well, I can't go outside now, it's cold, or come up with 10,000 very personal, true reasons for not doing something. And I think that the rest of the world has a very different perspective. I think Black America also has a very different perspective. I call it a collective consciousness.
I was going to say it's a collective consciousness.
Oh,
it's an awareness of others around you on some fundamental level, and acknowledging a shared history and a shared responsibility and so on.
Exactly.
Yeah, we just both came up with exactly that.
I've always said that. I wonder whether, the degree to which it becomes epigenetic. I've thought a lot about this, meaning that you are so used as, for example, as Black people, to survive. I think we really developed what we probably already had in Africa, but developed certainly here, this idea of community and collectivity and making a way out of no way and calling family the people that are around you, even if they're not your blood. And I think that, for example, we always talk about the 92% who voted the right way. Did we have to get a memo in the mail, a note, an email telling us this is what we're going to do? This is all right. No, we just knew, which is why we say we're drinking our water now, minding our business, because the rest of the country needs to develop this collective consciousness, which means that you think of other people before you think of yourself, or you think of other people the same way that you think of yourself.
Yes.
And
that you're able and willing to go the extra mile for someone else.
Right.
Even if there's not an immediate return for you.
Exactly.
And so, using the Australian example, we have universal healthcare, but we have what's called a mixed model of health. You can also privately insure if you want, because that covers chiropractors and other things. I've never been privately insured. So cradle to grave, universal, free healthcare. Now, just bear with me a moment, because I think it's really important. It's free at the point you receive it. How is it paid for? We have a Medicare levy. So every Australian worker, 1.5% of their income tax each year goes to the Medicare levy. And this is the bit I want to get to, if you earn over $200,000 a year, you pay more. You pay 2.5%. I have never heard an Australian complain about paying the Medicare levy.
Right.
That's my point.
No,
I've never heard a poor person, why should I pay for someone else's healthcare? No, it's what humans do. And we can all sleep better at night knowing anyone who needs surgery at 2 a.m. can get that and not be in debt.
Right. And we've been taught the opposite.
You get the dollars. That's the return.
That's the return. We've been taught the opposite. First of all, health insurance is through your job. So that's a whole other issue.
Weird anyway, yeah.
It's very weird. And, we've been taught, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Why should I pay for you? I mean, it's weird. But, you think about Martin Luther King, his last speech. Like any man, he said, I would like to live a long life. He said that. He said, longevity has its place. But I'm not worried about that now. I'm not fearing any man. I've been to the mountaintop. I may not get there with you. He understood that from his own. He didn't say, so since I'm afraid that I won't get there with you, and I really want to get there with you, I'm going to sit my behind down and let the choir take over and not do my work. He didn't say that. He said, I would love to live a long life. Longevity has its place, but it is not the sum total of a life. And so I know what the promised land looks like. We as a people, which is what we're talking about, we as a people will get to the promised land. Everybody Black understood that concept. I think it went right over white people's heads. What do you mean we as a people? He died. He didn't
I'll
get
give
there.
you another example with Aboriginal people in Australia. Now, I don't think this would happen today. I have to say that before I tell this mini story. But it certainly happened in the 50s, 60s, 70s. When Black prisoners were together in the jail and it came up for someone to be released, they would say, no, I'll wait until my brothers are released.
That's collective responsibility, collective consciousness. Until all of us are free, none of us are free.
And like I said, I doubt that would be happening in the modern world, but it did happen for a long time, and it's an important part of the story. Exactly.
But it needs
no one is free if someone's not free.
That's right. And I know there's this move amongst young people. You and I are of an age, but I look to the young people for some hope. And I know that young people, there's this big move to be all analog driven. Right. So in other words, it's cute. Well, it's more than cute. It is cute because you and I mean, do you remember when the phone first came out? What a miracle from God it was. God in your pocket. What? A computer in your pocket. You could talk to anybody anytime. And for us, it's a miracle. It's a miracle. For them, they're over it. And so they're moving towards this more analog, like writing with a pen, for example, instead of typing, learning things like knitting and sewing and, home cooking instead of ordering out all the time. And I think that, what I hope is that we can encourage them, or that they will encourage themselves, right, to take that analog idea even further. And go back to this collective consciousness idea of if one of us is, if none of us is free, then one of, you know what I mean? Because that's analog as well. It's just that it's not rewarded in any kind of fast-paced, AI culture to be that way. But I think what will happen is the AI bubble will burst. We will learn how to use it. It will learn how to right size it, I think. And I think we will start to learn to value again human beings for what human beings can do. So for example, art. Nobody can make a perfect painting, but AI can. But is perfection the end?
What is it?
It's not that, exactly. There's no hand involved. There's no imagination involved. We will get to that point. Right now with AI, people are like we are with how we used to be when the phone first came out, like, oh my God. But I feel like we will have a return to our own humanity for all its flawedness and all its messiness. And I think we will turn to each other. Now, somebody asked a good question, which is kind of related. They asked about why do we think that I can't find it, but why are the Clintons testifying? This is very interesting. I think it's the Clintons would probably argue that it's along the lines of what we're talking about. In other words, the felon and Melania apparently can do no wrong. They can't be held to account. Presidential immunity, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So at first, the Clintons were going to resist. They weren't going to come and testify because it's a kangaroo court, for one thing. Then they changed their mind. Now, some people are saying they gave up, they capitulated, they knew they couldn't win, but that's not what the Clintons are saying or their representatives are saying. They're saying there should be a standard. There should be, in other words, we should have to testify. It's the right thing to do. But guess what? If we testify, guess who else should have to testify? And so the Democrats are now saying, okay, we will then force whatever his name is, the felon, and Melania to testify. So you could argue that the Clintons here at their late stage of life, right? They're not going to be on the stage.
Yeah,
anymore.
they're not on the ticket anymore.
No, but they're going to, but so they can afford to take one for the team.
Yes.
I think that's what's happening. The question really will be, are people who are still on the main stage and who do have something to really lose, are they going to be willing to take one for the team? That jury is still out.
Yes, yes. And courage is hard to come by in this particular climate. But again, which is probably why you raised it, it's about doing what's best for the collective, not just your life, your marriage, your legacy, your individual everything.
Exactly. You know, a friend of mine, I have a very good friend who lives in Italy, and she's American, but she could get Italian citizenship. And so when everything jumped off, she got her Italian citizenship and she's moved to Italy. And so she messaged me the other day and she said, you know, I'm really worried about you with the work that you do and the things that you say. Do you have a plan B? And I said, you know, actually, no, I don't. And I said, I've actually talked to my daughter about this. I have a grandson. And I said to my daughter, and she didn't bat an eye. She said, I know you, and I know that that's how you feel, and I respect it. And I said, when somebody asks him, where was your grandmother during that time, that ugly, dark time? Do I want him to say, oh, she moved to another country because she was scared, or she was under the bed and, you know, with the covers over her head, hoping that it would, you know, eventually end, or she died of fright, or she didn't pay any attention to it because, you know, it didn't affect her. I mean, or would I rather have that? In all cases, I'm alive in those scenarios. Or would I have, you know, I don't know, somebody banging on my door since they don't need a warrant anymore. And I hold out my passport and they flick it out of my hand and say, that doesn't matter either. And then take me off to the gulag where I meet, you know, an untimely end. Was my life about something that was the collective, that was bigger than me? That's what I want my grandson to be able to say at show and tell when they say, you know, who was your grandmother? I would rather that. And this is not being cocky or arrogant or boastful, because not for nothing, I am scared. I don't want to go in an airport in the worst way. And my daughter lives across the country from me. I'm terrified. I've been in airports where, you know, I've had this kind of hair and I get up to security and they don't just like put me through the machine. They have their hands in my hair, thinking that I have, I don't know, razor blades or drugs or whatever. This has happened more than once. The first time it happened, I was so angry. I said, Erica, when your hand is in the lion's mouth, you have to dance to his music. Yeah. What are you going to do? So I said, I looked at the person and I said, you know, I feel so bad. I said to the TSA person, I feel so bad for all those people behind me because they didn't realize that I would keep them waiting because I've been chosen for the spa experience. But you know what? Your hands in my hair, it feels so good. So take your time.
That's
take your time.
That's
and she laughed, and I laughed, and then I moved on. But yeah. I mean, meanwhile, I'm shaking. I shouldn't have to have gone through that. So it's not like I'm not
of course.
scared. But I think people don't understand that courage is feeling fear and doing the thing anyway.
Absolutely. If you're not afraid, it doesn't require courage.
It does not require courage. That's right. And so really fostering that collective consciousness requires you to examine your relationship to fear, I think.
Yes,
you know?
yes. And it's probably too big a topic for now at the end, but what we see as privacy often works against us
That's right.
too.
So say more.
Well, I think in the generic sense of UK, Australia, US, sort of the home is the castle sort of mentality. So when you want privacy from the busy public world, you go into your home and you shut that door. And depending on your lifestyle and your family situation, you have some degree of privacy. In Aboriginal households, or I'm sure it was poor Black households, particularly back in the day, but also in Polynesian households, it's the complete reverse. Okay, so home is the public space. So even if you're married, you might not be able to sleep in the same bedroom because aunties will designate the sleeping plan. You'll get back from a club at midnight. Oh, I'm in with the kids, and oh, I'm in with this one, and right, you know. And if you want privacy, you have to go out and find it on the beach, round the corner of the cliff, or in the forest, because it's not in the house.
This is part of being analog, though, is looking at some of these cultures that clearly knew what they're doing because they survived all this time. I know that there are places in Africa where if somebody misbehaves in some way, instead of them being ostracized, which is what we would do, right? Not talk to them. No, instead they are encircled. And they're in the middle of the circle, and then the people in the community take turns telling the person in the middle all the good things that they can come up with about them. Wow. In other words, they appeal to that person's better angel.
Oh, wow.
Right. Isn't that beautiful? Now, individually, you probably want to get up and pop that person in the face because they
for sure.
Or something. But no, you have a collective understanding of that person's importance to your community. You do not want to lose that person because they're in their own torment. So your obligation is to bring them back to themselves and to the community. That's having an understanding of collective consciousness. Now, I do think there are certain people who are beyond hope, the felon being one. I am not trying to have him be in the middle of a circle where we all tell him,
No.
That ship has sailed. But short of him, this is something worth thinking about. How do we bring our family members who are MAGA people? I have a nephew, a Black nephew, who is a Black MAGA. He calls me on my birthday. He calls me on holidays. I love you, Auntie Erica, out of the blue. I love him too. And I want to say a few things, and I have said a few things, but then I have to move past that and love him. I wouldn't touch him, but that's not going to do any good. So I feel like this part of this whole analog movement, I hope, includes not just doing crafts and cooking, and putting your phone down, but that it's really thinking about who we are in relation to ourselves and to each other in the collective. That will really help.
So true.
Yeah.
And I think slowing down is a big part of that.
That's right.
You can be seduced by the instant, infinite options.
I mean, just with you and me. Well, you and I even, we thought we could do what we're doing in half an hour. And we realized that it was not serving people if we could just slow it down, take our time, give people things to think about, let them talk, in the chat. We're seeing what you're saying. That's moving towards the analog too. So Lena, we're old, but we're right on time with the analog trend.
That's cool. And just to remind everyone, how do you send us questions? Right. So go back to when this video appears on YouTube. Even if you're live now, you have to wait till it turns up on YouTube. Go to the comments and put them there, and I'll go through the questions for next week.
There we go. All right. Thank you all for joining us. It's been great always talking to you, Lena, and it's so good to be able to do it in real time with our friends from around the world.
It's a thrill. Thank you so much. And you guys have been amazing in the chat. So thanks so much.
So we will be back with you same time next week.
Same bat time, same bat chat.
Yes, and who knows where the world will be, but I feel like, I don't know, I feel something on the wind, and it feels kind of good.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we'll have other things that'll slap us around the head, but can't you feel a shift? It's like suddenly we're not so fringe and freaky. It's like more people are coming on board across the world.
We need to welcome those people in.
Yes.
You know, the collective.
Yeah.
All right, you all. We will see you next week. Thank you so much. Take care.
Cheers, guys.